All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Racers News Network Live. We have got an awesome show for you tonight. We are going to be talking about the new Toyota class racing program that is happening and being put together by Daren Pool Adams. We're going to get to that in just a couple of minutes. But have to say first, thank you to my co-host Pete for actually being able to show up. He's a busy man between the end of school year and his shop manager having a baby.
Weeks and things should free up.
Yeah,
A lot of people are actually surprised that we're still in school, but yep, April 20th is the last day.
cool. April 20th, so it's already
April, yeah.
gone by.
Yeah, April 20th. I'll be all right. How about June 20th?
There you go.
Could you tell it's been a long day?
No, not at all. So what else is new and exciting? Anything good?
Same old, my friend. We're just working on my car, trying to get it done. Trying to get the year-end school stuff done. Trying to keep the garage going, customers happy, stay married, have healthy kids, all the usual stuff.
You got Brennan's car all fixed up from his little window explosion.
Brennan's car is all fixed up. He went to the track this weekend, and about 10 miles before he got to the track, hit a deer and hammered the
Jesus.
front of his truck. So,
Oh God.
yeah, it's been between the weather and stupidity and stuff out of your control. It's been quite the year for him.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, we got some good stuff to talk about tonight. I think it's going to be educational for everybody involved.
me included.
Absolutely.
Looking
Something
forward
you
to it.
can bring to your classroom with you too, more than likely.
I got to tell you, it's anything that I could do to pique the kids' interest is a good thing, without a doubt.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest. Of course, I'm talking about Daren Pool Adams, from the great state of North Carolina. He lives not too far from where I lived in North Carolina, for a number of years, and it's I've been looking forward to this. Like I said, it's a new program coming into NHRA stock eliminator racing. And Pete, go ahead and take it away.
All right, Darren, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, listen, I'm excited about this because I love technology and I love new stuff. A lot of people are against the electric car. I think that electric cars are cool. I would never want to see them replace regular cars. But anything if it's something different, something that will attract a new class of people to the sport that we all love. I'm all about it. And I got to tell you, with the little bit I know about what you're doing, I think you're accomplishing just that. So tell me a little bit about what you got going on there and what the future plans are.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm trying my best on that to bring something new to market. I've always been a little bit that way. The only class I ever really wanted to race was stock eliminated. So this is big for me. As a 14-year-old, I wrote to the NHRA about racing a '67 GTO in stock, and I actually got a really nice response for them back then. And when I finally started racing, when I started Pool Adams Racing in '95, I bought a new Firebird. My wife said to me then, she said, "If you're gonna run stock, don't race an old car, race a new one." So I
Nice.
so I ordered a Firebird. It's got 186 original miles. It's only
Wow.
ever been a stock eliminator car, and it turned out by accident it's a one of one car.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's kind of a cool thing. And so now I've got this really good history of taking brand new cars and taking them apart and building stockers.
Yeah.
The Toyota thing came around interestingly. I I really like start for me. It started with the Toyota. It's the '86 now, but it used to be the FRS.
Okay.
And I got a Copo in 2012, and in 13 I asked for a second car, and GM was kind of like there was big demand for those cars back then, and
Sure.
they were kind of like, you're being a little greedy, let somebody else have a chance. And I said, well, I need a team car, and they didn't quite get that. So I was at Charlotte in the fall of 13, and there was a Scion FRS sitting there, which is the 86. And they also had one of the truck V8s sitting on a stand. And I said, hey, can I talk to somebody about this stuff? And I waited for quite a while. And then this gentleman from Toyota came out, and he was a big guy, remember. I don't remember his name. He was
Hmm.
super nice to me. And I said, hey, man, you've got this really cool car over here. It's real sexy. I really like the look of it. And you got this V8 engine. What's the chances we can collaborate? And, I'm at that time thinking Cobra Jet, Copo, drag pack.
Sure.
And in the nicest way, he said, yeah, no.
Really.
So, so in my perspective, if you know me, I'm like, well, at least he's talking to me.
Right.
I
Right.
was like, that's
So you're saying there's a chance.
what I'm saying? That's just how I always am. And I kind of, I did get another Copo in 14, and we've done a lot of really cool things over there with GM.
Yep.
But this Toyota thing has always been bugging me. If I saw those cars in a parking lot, I'm looking up underneath them. I'm looking for something else to look at, to measure what will fit, this. And I
Sure.
just still at the whole time think this would just be so cool. And then in 2020, the Super came out, and that reinvigorated me again. It's like, wow, this thing's even nicer.
Right.
I mean, you can't look at that car and not say it's beautiful.
Oh, that's a beautiful
Uh,
car.
the lines are great. The rear end view of that car is just mean. And with the big slicks on there, it's
Yep.
really cool. It's really, really cool. Yeah, I've been excited through all this project. So they came out almost right away. I think my wife and I were on our way. She's a Disney maniac. We were on our way to Disney World,
Hmm.
and we stopped in all the fancy dealers, the Toyota dealers in Florida, looking for a Supra. And this is when they just came out. And I found one down near Miami somewhere. And I went in the dealership and took a tape measure and started measuring, and got
Yeah.
in the seat and looked to see where the roll cage would go, and really, really was just like studying the car. And I said to the guy there, I'm not buying one right now, but I just want to see if it'd make a good race car. And that convinced me it was. And I how do you say this? It's really hard to get to somebody at the manufacturers, like to get somebody's ear, to even find a name,
Sure. Yep.
because these decisions are not made at a low level in the corporation. Okay, so that makes it really tough to get through the barriers. So around 2022, and this thing's bugging me and it's going through my head. Around 2022, Toyota did a deal where they did 10 seconds for $10,000. They did two Supras, and those cars ended up being match raced at NHRA events. Like Antrom and those guys would race them against each other.
Okay.
And as soon as they announced they were doing that, I went, wow, this is kind of getting in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
They're thinking about, they've got this funny car program they've just started, but now they're thinking about sportsman cars, maybe, you know?
Like the door's starting to open.
And I'm like, well, if that's going to be there, I want to be that guy,
Right.
And so Jamie Meyer's a good friend of mine. At that time, he was the head of the PRI. And I reached out to Jamie and I said, hey, can you get me a meeting with the Toyota guys at SEMA? And he said, absolutely. He said, get a plane ticket, come on. So I bought a plane ticket, packed a bag, flew to Vegas, got a hotel room, went to the SEMA show, and for whatever reason, the meeting just did not happen.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think it was anything like they're just busy. You're the
Right.
SEMA show. There's some big names there too. They had
Sure.
a monster booth, and I'm Daren Poole Adams. I'm not walking up with much to offer. Let's put
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
and probably nothing that they wanted. Yeah. But through that, I met a bunch of really cool Toyota drift guys there.
Yep.
And those guys, the whole culture is one thing I'm finding with Toyota is the people involved are just nice.
Is that right?
It's just a good culture. I'm not saying anything about anybody else I dealt with, in the past or whatever. I don't want to tell
Sure.
those stories, but this has just been awesome so far. And so I'm looking at those guys and I'm like, man, how do I get to be them? Because here they are, they're drifting and they're running Toyotas and they're world champions, and I want what they got. And so from there, I went to the PRI show, and there was nobody from Toyota at the PRI show. So I went and talked to Lonnie Grimm at the NHRA.
Mhm.
I said, Lonnie, I said, you guys deal with Toyota all the time. Who do I need to talk to? How do I get a meeting? How do I talk to somebody just to get this out of my system? And then I told him it was a stock eliminator, and he said, well, that'd be really cool. He said, let me talk to Slugger. And so I leave out of there. I don't ever leave anything alone. I
Yeah.
left out of there and I start looking up this Slugger guy, and it turns out he's Slugger Labby, who's like a NASCAR legend. You know,
Okay.
he's the dude.
Yep.
And so it turned, in a turn of events, the guy that does my engines is Kelly Thacker, who came from Penske back when they had the Dodge engine program before they switched to Ford and they went to Yates engines.
Yep.
Penske had their own program, and he was the head of the honing department there. So I called him and I said, Kelly, I said, do you know this Slugger guy? And he said, yeah, I kind of know him. He said, but one of my friends is his best friend. And I
Okay.
said, well, I said, can you do me a big favor? Can you reach out to your friend and get me Slugger's phone number? Tell him what it's about
Yep.
and promise him that I will not stalk him. That I won't be this stranger danger guy. I've
Sure.
just got this thing that I got to get out of my system.
Yep.
So I messaged Slugger, and again, remember how high he is in the scope of things.
Sure.
This guy didn't have to deal with me at all, but he's the nicest man, and he answers every text.
Wow.
Just maybe not right away, but their culture is just so cool. And they're nice people to boot. Maybe they just don't hire people that don't mesh.
Right.
And so I reached out to him. I said, hey, this is Daren Poole Adams. I race stock eliminator. I'm really interested in racing one of your Supras in stock eliminator.
Yep.
And he came back and said, well, we're not interested in pro stock, pro mod, comp eliminator. And I
Sure.
said, great, because I want to run stalker.
Right.
And he said, well, it's not that easy. And, he started to explain some things to me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, and so what I decided to do there was not totally leave Slugger alone, but, because now I've got a contact, which just every
Sure.
once in a while, when we run class at Gainesville that year,
Yep.
both myself and Foley, who drives one of my Copo, one class, I sent him the photos with the Wallies.
Sure.
Or if we had all three Copos at a race, I would send him a picture of the three cars together.
Nice.
Just some stuff to say, hey, this is what we're up to. And if they
Yep.
did something good on their world, Antron won or something, I'd congratulate them.
Nice.
And I got more and more kind of watching what they do at the races. And those guys are serious. They bring a huge amount of people out there, and they check every bump in the racetrack and
Yep.
everything. I had no clue how sophisticated all that stuff was. I have more respect for Top Fuel now than I did before this started.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting like that. So fast forward from that, it's like really not. I'm a little disappointed. It's not really going anywhere, and I reach out to Slugger and I say, look, I'm gonna be at the Charlotte race in the spring. I'm gonna be there. I said, can I just come over and shake your hand? Because I never really met him in person, never talked to him. And I just like, can we do the handshake? At least then you know who's been bugging you. And he said, absolutely. And when it came around to it, they were like, after the pro qualifying, come over to the Toyota trailer. And if you know anything about that, they have this really high-tech, super sophisticated trailer with all the screens in there and all these computers going where they study everything. So they invite me over there, and I go over there, and he says, let me introduce you to my boss. And his boss is Paul Doleshill, who is the head of all motorsports for Toyota in the USA.
Okay.
And it's a marketing job, I think is the way that works. I don't know, 100%. But anyway, we don't get to go in the trailer. We end up having a meeting between that trailer and Kalita's trailer, and it's the two of them and me and my wife Veronica. And for whatever reason, I gave my quick pitch,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, I said something that made them turn around and go, "Okay, we'll work with you." Just that fast, and I'm standing there. I'm holding Veronica's hand, and she basically is holding me up because I about like hit the floor.
Well, yeah, because it's not like you've only been working at this for a half an hour and all of a sudden people are talking to you, right? This is like
Yeah.
a long-term relationship you're trying to go after here.
And I'm used to no's, I guess, and so I handle them in a good way.
Yep,
Through all of this is like, yeah, I'm talking to Toyota, you know, even
that's
if
cool.
it's you got to keep a positive attitude. You get mad and you walk away. I'm
Yeah,
not
I mean, at
mad.
any time you could have given up and all of a sudden you don't have that beautiful car in the background anymore, you know?
Yeah. So it took about a year to get the car. There was quite a bit of legal stuff involved in it.
Yep,
Uh, uh, and just it just stuff like this takes a while.
sure.
So we got it. It was a red car when I got it. It's a VIN numbered car. It's a production car.
Yep.
Uh, so we brought it home and straight away grenaded it and took it down to the absolute shell. Every nut, bolt, screw has been off that car.
Yep.
I think that really surprised Toyota. Uh, I don't know. I can't speak for them, but I don't think their perception was that Stock Eliminator was so far away from stock.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the
So I was going to say to you, so you surprised them like, oh my God, what did you do with my car? Or, oh my God, this is a big deal.
they were very let me do my own deal.
Yep.
Very kind of stand back. I think they're sitting there going, let's see what this guy does.
Like this guy's crazy.
This guy talks like he knows it. He's out there.
Yep.
So you Google me, you will find pictures of me. And yeah, I'm a
Sure.
little crazy. If you Google me, you'll find all the wheelie pictures.
Yeah. Yep.
The first thing, Jeff Warren drove one of my Copos, and the first time he did, I think he about got all four wheels off the ground, and he says, "I'm not driving it again without wheelie bars."
Yeah.
And Foley was the same way, and I'm like, guys, you guys just don't know how to rock,
That's right.
So so I think that we had I actually have been inside the trailer now and in the lounge that's back there, which is kind of cool to get to
Yep.
sit with them. And they gave me a few suggestions on things that they thought I should try. They were very much about things like maybe trying a Toyota rear end.
Okay.
The boundary we ran into with that, and it's some of the craziness that's kind of gotten into the stock eliminator rules over the years.
Yep.
Is I can't run one of their rear ends because they're all truck rear ends, and you can't put a trucker in a car in stock eliminator unless it came with it.
Sure.
So a Chrysler guy can put in a Dana 60, and a
Yeah.
Ford guy
Right.
can put in a 9-inch because
Yep.
they transition both worlds.
Sure.
Okay. So the way the rules are written currently is on any 2008 and newer car, you can run a
Yep.
9-inch rear end.
Oh,
And
no
it
kidding.
doesn't matter what brand it is.
Because I was gonna ask you about that. Like, what do you have to use for parts and stuff? And I didn't know about that rule. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So what we did, the first thing we did is, so what they also allow is you get to get rid of the cradle, you get to get rid of all the independent rear suspension stuff, and
Yep.
they basically, for each corporation or each platform, they accept a stock legal forelink, and they
Okay.
have it's a fixed lower arm, so there's no adjustment in the lower arm, and you're
Yep.
allowed adjustable uppers.
Okay. And it's triangulated, I assume.
Yeah.
Yep.
So so and then you're allowed like a panhard bar and an anti-roll bar or sway
Sure.
bar, whichever in there. But whatever is first submitted by the manufacturer, that's how they all have to be.
So that kind of leads into, and there probably isn't enough hours left in the week for you to describe it, but you can't just show up with a Toyota Supra and say, "Here, I'm here to race stock eliminator." So I would imagine there were a boatload of calls between you and NHRA and the manufacturer to figure out what's going to be legal, what's going to be accepted. This is not a 1 week adventure by any stretch.
The way the process goes is we cut out a little bit of the floor pan. We had to put it back, obviously, because we're not allowed to. You'll piece by piece build it, take a photo, send it to tech at NHRA. Then they come back and say yay, nay.
Wow.
You know, the good thing here is there's such a precedent, and I just happen to have in my shop a Cobra Jet body in white and a drag
Yep.
pack and a Copo. And so we stayed within that sphere.
Yeah, it's kind of like past practice, right?
Yeah, it's like I didn't really reinvent the wheel.
Sure.
We kind of stayed with that. So if you look under there, it's very, very similar to what's under a Copo or a 2019 Cobra Jet.
Yep.
Just the axle's a little bit narrower because the car's a little narrow in there. But it's the one thing that was tough with that car was packaging because there's not much room back there.
Okay.
Uh, that lower that lower control arm the is right underneath my butt.
Oh, is that right?
So it'll be an interesting car for the first 60 feet, I think, for sure.
What's the wheelbase on the car?
Yeah,
Approximately.
probably like 90. Oh, I'm gonna say this wrong. I must, I heard it's like 97, I think. I think
Wow.
that
So it's a short car.
it's a short car. I think that's right. One thing on that too is before this gets submitted, we'll go back and adjust all the suspension out. We're not finished with the car. I thrashed to get the car into the show last week at
Yep.
the High Performance Expo. They'd asked me to have it there, and I said I'll make sure it looks like a car.
Right.
And it won't be like ugly to look at. So we're not done because we're still like right now. I was on the phone with Lonnie Grimm at the NHRA yesterday for 30
Yep.
minutes about like, okay, how do y'all measure this turbo? You know,
Mhm.
uh, the rule book just says, hey, we measure the opening. And I'm like, surely that's not all you measure.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And so he said, no, there's about 5 different factors. He says, and I'm like, oh, turbo, like, how does that work? So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Right. Right.
show me a sketch, tell me what you're going to measure, because they allow an aftermarket turbo,
Yep.
uh, but it has to fit within whatever the parameters are there.
Sure.
So I did ask them originally. I said, well, because if you look at these things, this is a B58 BMW joint venture deal in this. So the powertrain was with BMW. I
Yep.
know Toyota had. I've heard that Toyota had a lot of say in it, and they kind of maybe tweaked some things and stuff to suit them.
Sure.
But it's basically a BMW B58 engine, and the exhaust manifold is cast into the turbo housing on these cars.
Oh, wow.
So I reached out to them and I said, "Can I cut this off, put a flange, and build a header?" And they were, "No, you can run an aftermarket turbo and a header." So it's
Okay.
it's I've now I'm kind of going through I've got a little bit of a learning curve to go through there.
Yep.
And so what I go back to is on this thing is like the wheelbase till we get this thing and we get it down and tested and get the pinion angle right and the weight
Sure.
right on the car. We're allowed I think it's right at a 1 inch or 3/4 inch tolerance. Uh,
I got you.
I want to see which way the rear axle rolls or whatever.
Yeah.
Where we go, and I know that doesn't sound right when it's a production car, but I don't want to show up the first time and get bumped because my wheelbase is wrong.
Oh, yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Yep.
And they'll do that. They will do that.
Yeah. Yep.
So
So let me ask you a question. Because it's not an American, one of the big three, have you encountered any resistance from people that you race with or online or anything of that sort?
yeah, I have. I I don't. I like to think everybody's heart's in the right place. They've
Yep.
just got a little bit of a personal thing with it, maybe. Like saying the big three is kind of a tough thing anymore. We were talking about this before. Like, all the Tundras are made right here in the U.S. and exported from here. You know,
Sure are. Yep.
all the Ford and Dodge trucks are all made in Mexico and Canada and places.
They
So
sure are. Yep.
saying American anymore is kind
Right.
of kind of floated. It's the traditional big three,
Yeah.
but there's a
It's
lot of
kind of
cars.
it's kind of crazy when you think about it that a Tundra is more American than a Ford.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that because I don't want to jump into that. It's
That's
just,
okay. I can.
we're in a global market,
Yep. Yeah.
and all I see is a good looking car, a lot of great technology, and I feel if you don't have the manufacturers involved in stock eliminator,
Yep.
we could lose the NHRA's attention.
Sure.
We're a big pain in their butt. You
Yeah.
know, we're probably one of the highest maintenance classes of drag racing, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I mean,
And
if you think about how much time is devoted to the rules,
yeah, just
right?
but just on a race day, just all the pairing and
Right.
there's so many
Right.
of us, and and every once in a while that they got to tear something down, and they got to weigh
Yeah.
us every time, a fuel
Tear
check
down
every
and
time.
fuel checks and all the rules. I mean, when a .90 car shows up, right? As long as they don't have some infrared light shining in the car and they're not breaking up at the end of the track and running dead on every time, what are they really looking at for us?
Yeah,
Um,
they're doing laps. They're easy. They're good. Yeah, we should appreciate the NHRA a lot more for the stage they give us. And I'm not,
right.
you know, uh, and I want to see stock eliminator stay around for as long as possible. Is one of my big things.
Yeah,
Like I said earlier, it's where the cool kids hang out.
right.
It's for me, and I'm not.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've done bracket and .90 stuff all my life, and if right now someone said to me, I mean, obviously I would love to go, top sportsman or something crazy fast. But if I had to stay kind of in the wheelhouse of what I'm doing now, I would absolutely pick stock eliminator because I really like the idea of trying to make something fast within a rule set.
Yeah, I always tell everybody stock eliminator is a study in efficiency.
Yes.
And if you're a tinkerer and you like to work on your stuff,
Yep.
there's no cooler place to be. I mean,
That's one way to learn about rotating mass and sprung and unsprung weight and all that stuff is
and
a stock eliminator car.
and tune and
Yes. Yep.
there's a topic going on Class Racer right now about street cars get to race at the track and they don't have to run the cage and all the safety gear, but you run
Yep.
a M stock automatic car and you've got to have a roll bar.
Right.
Well, you know what? I would want that roll bar in my M stock automatic car because it's going to 60 foot better. Okay.
Yep.
You can't convince me it won't be a better race car without that roll bar in there. And
And a lot of people have to realize too that, a roll bar in a car is for driver safety. And there is so much more engineering in a newer car for crash protection than a 75 Monte Carlo. And, people just don't get that. I understand why they don't require roll cages in a car that goes 1050 that's a 2015 or newer. I mean, there's just so many more crumple zones and breakaway. And I mean, if
but
you took the skeleton of the car, they already have a pretty sturdy roll cage built into it, but a lot of people don't realize that.
yeah, I see that. And then for the flip side of that, of putting the roll cage in there, it's there for me if I go upside down.
Yep.
But if you look at a well-built stalker and where those bars are placed
Yep.
and how they'll make that car work, there's a lot of magic in a roll bar and a roll cage,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's something that I think a lot of people overlook. You know, it's
Those two back bars that are going through the package tray aren't just landing aimlessly somewhere on the frame.
yeah, not if you're me. You know,
Yeah.
if you're doing a unibody car, you're seeing how you can bend the plates even to give it some rigidity and stuff.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
you're stressing the bars, you're doing stuff to build some you want all that energy to go to that tire.
Right.
You know, that's all of it in the stock, right? That's if you can't get it all in that 9-inch tire, you're just done. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I can't see how bringing Toyota into stock eliminator could hurt stock eliminator in any way. It's going to attract a new, younger crowd. Um, it's like we said with Tiger Woods with golf. He's not a conventional golfer, right? He's young, he's energetic, he celebrates, but he attracted a whole new group of people to the sport of golf. Anything that you could do drag racing, street outlaws guys, right? A lot of people don't agree with it, but the amount of people that it attracted to drag racing
Oh,
is unbelievable. We need that stuff.
those guys from my NMCA days, whenever they have one of those guys there, the lines those guys were great for drag racing. They bought
Yep.
people out.
Yep.
That's this right here. I hope it does something. You know, it's definitely got woken people up. You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
2 weeks ago the debate on class race. I always go back to class racer because that's where we all hang out a lot. But
Sure.
the debate there was like, here we were driving these really expensive bracket cars. You know, and it's a bracket racing, and there's like that was everybody's you know dig, I guess. And then all of a sudden, I bring out a Supra and performance is back.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this bogus,
Right, right, right. Yeah. What do you mean? It's just a bracket car. What's the big deal, right?
yeah. It's like, why do you care?
Yeah.
It's just a pretty one. It's funny. I hope that I don't step on anybody's toes too much. It's not my intent. You know,
No, I mean it's like I said. You're bringing a new crowd, a new manufacturer, and you're bringing something cool to the class. I think it could do nothing but help the class and help the sport.
I hope so. I hope so. It's and it's a production car. It's not a
Yep.
copo car. It's you know, one of the big things on it is we're allowed any corporate transmission.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I don't think I could make the 8-speed work that was in there.
Yep.
It just would have been very expensive, and there's really not a lot of SFI stuff in there.
Sure.
And not a lot of SFI stuff available, and
Yep.
we going back to the roll cage thing, same thing goes for transmissions. We have to have a lot of protective gear there.
Yep.
And so a lot of people don't really realize this, but BMW for years used GM transmissions.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So if we're allowed any corporate transmission, my argument to the NHRA was, I want a GM transmission as corporate.
Right.
And it took a little bit of negotiating.
Yep.
Uh, my biggest thing I wanted was an SFI case.
Right.
You know, I wanted something that I know, and that I didn't have to build all kind of crazy shields that wouldn't fit on. There's no room under that car for anything.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's very tight in there.
Yep.
Even just where I sit is very narrow once you get the cage in there and stuff on the interior
Right.
as well. So yeah, it's that I'm glad they agreed to do that with me, and I think
Yep.
it makes sense. And the 1968 AMC is allowed to run a Chrysler transmission because 30 years later they got bored out.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
that's just where the rules are right now, and so I
Yep.
don't feel guilty for doing that, but I am getting a lot of pushback for that.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But the other thing I said to the NHRA, if I run these 8 speeds, and I don't know what's going to happen when I shock them that hard.
Yep.
I don't know how long they're going to last and how much of a pain that's going to be for you guys. So yeah, I don't know. It's I think it's fun. I think it's cool.
What are you running for a drivetrain?
So we for the first motor, because I'm one of those guys, I wanted to learn a lot of lessons. So we took a production motor and it had 15,000 miles on it.
Hmm.
And so we took the production motor and basically put rings in it to get it good seal, decked it a little bit. You know, we had the task too of measuring everything.
Yep.
So we did that, and we did a legal valve job and some valve springs and stuff. And we're going to run basically a stock motor to start off with.
Okay. And what is stock for that vehicle?
The B58. So it's a 6 cylinder. It's got four valves per cylinder.
Yep.
It actually has three camshafts. It has an intake and exhaust, and then on the intake it has a third camshaft that comes in there and buries the lift.
Okay.
We have to keep that in there just because the way the thing's built, but we have that locked out, and
Gotcha.
that's about the trickiest thing we did to the motor so far.
Right.
JC at ATI helped me out with a bolt together converter for the thing
Yep.
and a bunch of pieces and parts that I don't really understand, but I'll play with them and see if we can find the right converter
Sure.
and get that worked out. You know, the guys at Strange and I have a really good relationship.
Yep.
They built the housing for me. We all the brackets, all the rear suspension, everything we did in house. The cage we did in house.
Yep.
And Strange worked with me on a run of front struts and front brakes because at the time there was nothing. There's stuff out there, but if you know the crowd that like these cars are kind of cult cars, so there is some stuff out there. There's a lot of people modifying these cars, but a lot of it was like green and purple and
Sure.
kind of different stuff for me, and I wanted something maybe a little bit more hardcore.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of car that would be you'd find more like on a road course or drifting or something like that, not necessarily drag race stuff.
There are a few being dragged, and there's shocks and stuff they advertise as drag, but
Yep.
I wanted to, you know, I worked Strange worked with me, and we made a bolt-in strut that goes right in the factory spot. And then the same thing with the brakes to where we didn't have to do a lot of modifications to put them in.
Yep.
The guys at Weld made me a 15-inch wheel specific for the hub that's on this car.
Okay.
So what I wanted was like if I build this car, I didn't want all these one-off parts. So
Sure.
they're one-off this time, but you know, on the case of the struts, I had to buy the whole run. Okay,
Oh,
the
did you really?
specific brakes, yeah, I'm committed for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, yeah, I'm definitely in this. But like the wheels, I wanted a wheel that just bolt on. I will make this stuff available to people.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it out there. You know, to where it's not just Daren has this hold on this
Sure.
stuff, you know.
Yep.
The other things that were there was no manual brake system available for it, so we built our own adapter
Yep.
so now we've got a master cylinder that bolts to the factory pedal and the firewall in the factory spot, and
Nice.
seems to work pretty good so far. Obviously, we don't have any runs on it, but just pushing around and you know
Sure.
it stops. You know, and I think it'll work fine. Same
Yep.
goes for the manual rack. We had to engineer our own manual rack system for it. We did that. It's in a super rigid. It seems to work good so far. You know,
Yep.
so. Yeah, it's I think other things we had to do is like the ECU, you know, I've had a long-term relationship with Holly.
Yep.
When I approached them about doing this thing and they were like, well, this is really not our market. So and they're talking to me a little bit right now. I don't know if it's going anywhere, but at the time, you know, when I was looking at this, I found a company in England called Delta SCS that
Hmm.
builds standalone ECU for engine swaps for like road race cars and stuff.
Yep.
So I bought one of those. You know that'll be our primary. That's what we'll start off with. Okay. And if it works out good, that's what we'll stick with. You know,
Yep.
I slipped that, you know, even that had to get NHRA approved. You know, so that got slipped into the accepted products thing. Like that's the thing that people don't understand. You don't just say, hey, I want to race that. And the manufacturers just jump up and go, oh, great idea, let's all do it. You
Yeah.
have
Right.
you there's a lot goes into it, you know, and you don't just show up with a modern car, especially there's not a lot left of the original car.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that. But that being said, you still have to conform to stock eliminator to make it legal. So every single part that you change on the car from stock has to get approved from NHRA, correct?
Yeah, you have to talk to people, and I hopefully when I get done and they get a look at it that they won't find some quirky little thing they don't like, you know.
Sure.
Uh, and if they do, well, hopefully they tell me to don't come back that way. It'll be something, you won't find something that's blatant, but
Right.
I'm interested to see what their take on some things are.
Yeah.
Let me
Yep.
say that. We built a lot of little pieces, engineered a lot of stuff that's kind of cool on there
Sure.
that I think's just fine.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yep.
There's lots of straight plastic fittings on these BMW engines and stuff. Everything on there now is all AN. We built all the pieces to put AN to everything.
Yep.
So so we'll see what happens.
Right. Coach, what do you got?
When do you anticipate testing it?
Boy, that's the big question. Yeah. So uh, I- hopefully within 30 days. We got a couple of issues
Oh, wow.
that I'm working with the vendors and stuff, but if you know me, I have a steady plan and I'm working towards an end goal. I would like to have the car at Indy.
Oh,
That
cool.
would I think that would be neat. I've got to get with the guys at Toyota. We have to put the TI forms together, the forms that go to the NHRA. Once we feel like we've got something like nailed down,
Yep.
uh, and it's not, there's nothing crazy in there. It's just a lot of paperwork. A lot of the stuff
Gotcha.
you put into the paperwork doesn't even really apply anymore, but it's stuff that's always been in the paperwork, so it always goes in the paperwork. And then there's stuff that's not in the paperwork that you're going to have to submit uh, because they're going to have to check it.
Yep.
Gotcha.
You know,
Now, have you been approached by any other racers to go, this works out, I may be interested in one?
that's a funny thing. I got a call Sunday, and that may be in the works.
That's very cool.
So that was one of my plans. I'm 58 years old. This has always been my thing. I've built a lot of my own stuff. To this point, I bought a car or built a car, raced it, sold it. Uh, I've never really been in the business of building for other people.
Yep.
That's something I kind of would like to do. I've always, my career is I work on textiles machinery. I've got a small company that we sell dye equipment, and I travel the world doing that. But my wife and I have talked about this a lot here lately. This is what I would rather be doing.
Sure.
And so this kind of thing is kind of a breakout thing for me. It's a niche market. I've got a lot of this stuff on the shelf, so if somebody wants to do it, I can do it.
Yep.
Uh, I haven't nailed down a lot of pricing. Like it's one thing I said is like if somebody was building their own, I would gladly help them too. You know,
Well, I definitely know where you could get a set of struts for
oh yeah, and
it.
on my end of it, for the next little bit, I would like to be racing 3 to 4 of these cars.
Really?
Yeah, so when I talked to Toyota originally, my thing is I'm not interested in doing one. I want to switch my whole program. It
Sure.
it doesn't make sense for me to, I love the Copos. I've had really good results with those, obviously. Foley will kill me because he absolutely loves the car he's in right now. Uh, you know, I love it too. That's my favorite. That's the car I won Charlotte with. So I'm you know, I hate
Right.
to park it, but that's him. I talked to him on Sunday about that. That's kind of in my plans, you know. So
That's awesome.
we'll
What
see. We'll
what
see how the
class of
cars
stock
run.
eliminator are you going to be in?
That's a tough call too. Uh, the Let me try and give the short answer to that. Once we get the car totally finished, we'll
Yep.
weigh it, see what makes the most sense. I know I'll get flamed for this a little bit, but we're allowed to take out the whole wire and harness, the big brakes, the big wheels, the leather seats, the console, uh, the all lots of trim in the trunk area and stuff, all the airbags, all the stereo stuff. all the heater stuff, all the AC stuff. There's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. There's literally, a truckload, all the cradles for the independent rear suspension. There's a lot of weight that comes out of these cars. So, traditionally a stalker fits three classes. You have a natural class, you have one weight break down, one weight break up. We've got to figure out how light it can get,
Yep.
what the natural class is, and to get to the higher class, can you get there within the rules as far as ballast? Okay, so it's I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but when you look at this thing, we may end up at the factory weight, we may not. The chassis is pretty heavy in those cars because
Yeah.
it's built on the Z4 chassis, so it's the chassis that's in that thing is really made for a convertible.
Okay.
So it's a whole lot stiffer, more rigid, and
Sure.
built than a lot of the Camaro cars that aren't convertible. So it's kind of heavy there, but I just don't even know what it's going to weigh. And so I know pushing it feels a whole lot lighter than a Copo. We
Yep.
at the show I also had to push my 572 Copo around. We put that in the ballroom for them,
Yep.
and the difference is resounding. So not trying to beat around the bush a lot. The horsepower rating from the factory is 382.
Yep.
Normally the NHRA will give you what we call the 85% rule.
Okay.
So if you do the math on that, that puts it somewhere around 325.
320. Yep. Yep.
That's going to be a negotiation between Toyota and the NHRA.
Sure.
Uh, I don't want to get beat up for that, but I'll say things like when you look at what the stock eliminator rules have allowed to be done to a 60s motor as far as low tension ring packages,
Yep.
as far as even running aftermarket blocks where you get better cylinder sealing and all that other good stuff.
Sure.
When you look at the technology that's now allowed into stock that these cars have from the factory, the gains aren't there in those parts. Does that make sense? I can do a lot with an old small block Chevrolet that's already done here. So they give you that concession, number one, because you may not find that power. And number two, uh, to make you can't spend this kind of money on a new car and show up and qualify in the middle of the field. It makes it that's a hard that would be that my 572 is the best example of that. When I bought it from GM, uh it was rated 430 horsepower. By the time the NHRA got done with it, it was 500.
Oh, wow.
And at 500 I can do nothing with it. It's I'm lucky if I can get to the middle of the field.
Yep.
And that was a hard pill for me to take. I've just spent all this money on a brand new Copo, and I lucked out. They gave me the very first one built. It's serial number 4, but it was built a month before the serial number 1 car, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, no kidding. That's pretty wild.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all documented. I catch crap on the internet for that too.
Hey, they're talking good about you or talking bad about you. They're still talking about you, right?
That's how I feel about it.
Yep.
I'm thick-skinned. It doesn't it bounces off. As long as it doesn't get
Yep.
personal, I'm fine.
Yep. Awesome.
Very cool.
So, anyone else you want to mention or thank for this project that you've got going on so far?
Mike at Evolution of Speed has saved my life. Uh from the flex plate back, I was all good. When it came to a lot of things on this super engine, he's been I found him because he reached out to Strange about some struts.
Oh, wow.
And so we kind of collaborated there. I said, well, let's put some in and test them in your car because he's got a super that runs like 7s in the quarter mile.
Okay.
Yeah, he breaks lots of factory pieces all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's he's a great guy. He has really been helpful. And so I
Nice.
say for sure with him, obviously the guys at Strange and Weld and ATI, uh, you know, that everybody has been so cool to me.
Yeah.
I think they see the value in this, and they get excited about it. I think nobody expected what you see in that picture there. Nobody was really, everybody looks at me like I'm a little bit crazy, and it's for me, it's just cool. It's to be working with the manufacturer directly. We did a lot of indirect stuff in the COPO program, a lot of backdoor stuff,
Yep.
but to be directly working with them, these guys, I say this again, these guys don't need to talk to me. I'm not, you know, they've got,
You're not you're not Don Schumacher or John Force.
yeah, and they've got so much going on.
Right.
These guys,
Right.
they're every time you talk to them, they're Baja or Ford, the truck stuff, or ARCA or NASCAR. Or they're gone and going all the time, and they've got their family lives too, and they still take time to say hey to me, which is, yeah, it's a blessing. I don't know how to,
Awesome.
yeah, this has been a fun ride so far. I don't know how far it takes me, but I know what I want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we appreciate you coming on the show, and we are really looking forward to watching the progress. We will be keeping our eyes open, and please know that you have an open invitation whenever you want to come on and share something with us. We would love to have you to talk more about it.
Thank you very, very much.
Our
You're very
pleasure.
welcome, Darren. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Take care, my
All right,
friend.
have a great night.
Bye.
All right, Darren Poole Adams, our guest tonight, talking about the Toyota Stock Eliminator Class Racer program. How cool is that going to be?
So I'll tell you what, I
Uh-oh.
haven't I haven't purchased the NHRA TV package this year, and it's probably the first time that I haven't done it in 3 or 4 years. Something like that would make me want to purchase it just so I could watch him run when he goes out for the first time to see how he's doing.
Yep.
That's a pretty cool ride. I like that.
See how many people are standing at the starting line watching too.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be and let's face it, I guarantee you. I mean, we have people that go through excuse me, the new car blues when they're using proven platforms.
Right.
So I could only imagine the learning curve with that car is probably going to be extensive. But even still, to watch him make, his first pass, if he goes 15s, and then the next thing after months and figuring stuff out, and probably running in the eights. So it'll be very cool to watch the evolution of that car. Um,
Absolutely.
and I hope, and this is something that I probably should have asked him, but that would be a cool thing to be documenting as he goes. Or, like you said, he's going to build a couple more. It would be nice to see, without giving away secrets and stuff, obviously.
Right.
It would be cool to see the progression of one of those cars being built and what goes into it.
Right. Yeah. We ran it the first time, and like I said, it ran a 15 something.
I mean,
And
it's,
we
yeah,
went back,
it's,
made a few adjustments on the laptop, and
yep.
went up for the second hit, and we were already down in the 12s,
Yeah, yeah.
or
I mean,
whatever.
it would just be cool to watch that whole thing. I mean, let's face it, in our lifetime and whatever it is we have left, how many more new things like that in this sport are we going to witness?
With the manufacturer wanting to be a major part of it.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, like I said, someone could take one of those cars and put a tube chassis under it and put a big block in it and go dot 90 racing or stretch the wheelbase and go top sportsman racing or whatever. But as far as making that car legal for stock eliminator, I mean, how many more times are we going to see something like that?
Right.
Uh, I'll bet you we'll be able to count them on one hand.
Yep.
How many have we seen from when we started racing until now?
Right.
So it's kind of cool to watch it, and I can't wait to see it.
I know it's going to be really cool. I hope we get to see it soon.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt.
So,
Good stuff.
all right. So this past weekend at Bristol
Yeah, there's a lot of
and in Pro Stock,
yeah.
there was a lot of team on team drama, I guess is the best way to
Yeah,
put it.
I don't want to say I don't care about it because it, it's nice to show that people one of the biggest complaints about NHRA racing is that they complain that all the drivers and all the interviews and everything are like robots, right? Oh, I'd like to thank Pennzoil. I'd like to thank McDonald's, blah, 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 you know? It's nice to see people have passion, but you don't want to see them come to fisticuffs over it either, you know? So,
Right,
but I don't know. It's a double-edged sword. I'm more curious as to what the whole deal was with the illegal wheels, and did they put a different set of wheels on just for Q4, or were they running them for all the qualifying runs and they just noticed them for Q4? I don't know. I don't know was there a performance advantage, or was it just uh something that they wanted to try, but there was no real advantage. And again, it all depends on who you talk to, right? If you talk to Team Elite, they're going to say there's no way it was any advantage. They weigh the same amount, blah, blah, blah. If you talk to a competitor, they probably won't have the same feelings. So,
right,
um, for all we know, they could roll out 2 weeks from now in the wheels that she ran on Q4 they could make legal. Just go through the process like our guest tonight is going through the process. And they could wind up being legal in a month or next year or never. Who the hell knows?
right.
But it's good to see excitement.
So, with that being said, this dropped about an hour ago. NHRA Mission Foods Racing Series, following the disqualification of Eric Anders' run during the fourth round of qualifying on Saturday in Bristol due to the use of rear wheels that did not meet NHRA's approved specifications for Pro Stock. The following additional penalties have been announced: a 100-point deduction
That sucks.
and a $5,000 fine. The team has the right to appeal the financial penalty if they wish to do so. The fund selected, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Safety safari.
Yeah, I'm sure they couldn't care less about the monetary value. I mean, I don't want to talk about other people's money and how they spend it, but I'm guessing that they're probably a lot more sour about the points than the money.
Yeah,
Um,
100 points is a big hit.
well, I mean, I don't know. Is it still? I haven't paid attention to the points in a while, but is it still 20 points around?
I honestly don't know.
Because if it's 20 points around, that's a hell of a hit.
That's five
You know,
rounds.
that will
Yeah,
affect where you're going to wind up in the countdown, and I mean, yeah, that kind of. I'll bet they're not real happy about that.
let's look. Now I'm going to read this, but obviously I don't know for absolute fact
Yeah,
if if they've already deducted the points. I'm going to assume they did,
yeah.
but all
Well, it
right.
should say at the top of the points when it was posted. And if the posting date is
Oh,
after
that's right.
that
Yeah, you
thing
can
that just
click
came
on.
out.
All right. So Greg Anderson, first place, 793 points. Dallas Glenn, second place, 726. Matt Hartford in third, 482. Corey Reed, 405. Aaron Stanfield, 330. Derek Kramer, 318. Eric Latino, seventh, 307. Erica Enders in eighth, 306. So I'm going to assume that was she already got the hit. Let's see.
That's a tough hit.
Yep. If I had ESP and looked at the points beforehand, before this weekend, I'd be able to tell you.
Yeah,
But
I gotta be honest with you. I don't think that if someone said to me, "What do you think is going to happen in Bristol?" I don't think I would have ever said Erica's going to get dinged for wheels and lose 100 points. That wasn't on my radar. I'll tell you that.
no, they've been there. I mean, this year hasn't been good to them, but I mean, every team struggles,
Right.
and for whatever reason,
And I
this
mean,
has
they've
been their
also,
year.
again, because of the way the countdown and the playoffs are structured, you know, I've know that I've seen years where they were in test mode, especially Elite was in test mode for a good half, 3/4 of the year, and then turned it on and won a championship.
Right.
So, I mean, they don't want to purposely lose races and lose money and points. But they are known for having their eye on the prize, and they work hard to get there. So see what happens.
Yep. So, and then obviously there was rain, which has been the theme again for this year.
And I also saw a lot of rumblings about it being a 1 lane racetrack.
Yeah, was it? A lot of people are saying the right lane was toast.
Yeah, I don't know which one it was, but it's just kind of ironic that the sponsor was True Grip, and it seemed like
There
they
was
only
no
had
grip.
True Grip in 1 lane.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you know what? I wouldn't be able to tell you the first thing that's involved with prepping a track, and when you deal with the weather that we've been dealing with, they've been dealing with. Um, I'm not going to poke fun at anybody because I don't know the first thing to making it right.
not to reach out to our friend Mr. Track Prop.
Yeah, yeah, and I bet Steve Rhodes would know quite a bit about why things happen the way they happen too.
Yeah, why one lane is more dominant than the other,
Yep.
when in
Yep.
theory they're both being prepped the same.
And it's weird because you would think that if it's really lopsided, that after a session of pros, you could just say, hold on, and let's do a quick scrape and start from the beginning, and then you'd be even again. But I feel like I've seen that before and it still didn't bring it around. So I don't know. Like I said, that's all way out of my wheelhouse of knowledge. But
Yeah,
um I don't think there's any way in the world that any drag race facility would accept a lane difference if it was something that could be overcome.
especially
So
a place like Bristol.
yeah, a place like Bristol and an NHRA national event, right? I mean,
Right,
that's about, short of going to Gainesville or Indy, that's about as big as it gets. And I don't think for 1 second that it would be something that they would accept if there was something that could be done about it, short of grinding the concrete and starting all over again.
right, right.
So
I guess we'll
that
just
is what it
see
is.
what we'll see.
Yes, yes, we will.
So,
Who else?
Lebanon,
I think
go ahead.
uh the Capco guy, Torrance.
Torrance,
Yep.
Torrance,
Ron Caps.
funny car. Yep.
Yep. Greg Anderson. Was ProMod there? I don't know if ProMod
Yes.
who won, who didn't win.
Uno momento, por favor.
I feel like I heard J.R. Gray was in the final but didn't win. I don't know. I don't know. I could be totally wrong.
Oh, let's see.
It's so hard. I scroll through Facebook and I see stuff, but I don't know if it was from a week ago or what event or scrolling half unconscious, not really paying attention.
I'm gonna go with the more unconscious part of the
Yeah,
show.
I can't even argue that.
All right, Sunday wrap up. Let's see what we got here. Now, mind you, again, these are not all the classes.
Yep.
This is what they were able to get in, which is the pros.
Right.
Top Fuel, Steve Torrance. Funny Car, Ron Capps. Pro Stock, Greg Anderson. Pro Stock Bike, Richard Gadsden.
Okay.
Pro Mod, J.R. Gray.
Oh,
Mountain
it's a
Motor
great
Pro.
one. Okay.
Yep. Mountain Motor Pro Stock, John DeFlorian Jr.
Yep.
And Factory Stock, Mark Pollock.
Very cool. And the rest are going to be completed at the Sports Nationals, you
At
said?
Sports Nationals, yeah,
Yeah.
at South Georgia. So,
Very cool.
yep,
All right. Well, here's to another successful week.
absolutely. So when are you going to be making your debut for 2025?
I'm trying like hell. I hope to have some heat in the tubes next week sometime. Um, I have a commitment where I have to deliver a car and work on a car. Not this coming weekend, but the weekend after, in New Jersey. And then if I'm feeling really ambitious, I'll do that on Saturday and then attempt to go to the track on Sunday. But I'm telling you right now, I'm already tired just thinking about that. So that'll probably never happen. So I might take, if there's a track rental that coming Friday or Wednesday or something, I might try and do that. My kid wants to run Night of Fire at Lebanon Valley.
Cool.
That would probably be my first weekend out. Um, that Saturday, Sunday, but I really want to get ready for the divisional, which is the weekend after.
Yep.
So I'd like to do like if I could do a Wednesday, I got to see if I could have someone like fill in at the shop for me or something. If I could do Wednesday and then stay up there and do Night of Fire, or I don't know, we're gonna something
We'll
like that.
figure
We'll see.
something at some point
Right.
somewhere.
The goal would absolutely be to have a dozen runs under my belt before the divisional.
Gotcha.
So
Cool.
we'll see what happens.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good deal. I'm hoping to be there for Friday night of Night of Fire. It all depends on if I can get a ride from people out there
Yep.
and be there Saturday for the divisional.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So, but so
Excellent.
has Brennan decided if did he sign up for points or is he just going to run when he
Not
runs?
only has he signed up for points, but whatever points they ran, he's been there. So,
Nice.
including going up a couple of times and sitting in the rain, because it's so funny now that he's a member of points. He's like, I got to be there because I'm in the points, so you never know. He's all
That's
about it.
awesome.
So, yeah, he's all about it. So,
Very cool.
yep, yep,
Well, all
yep.
right. Well, I want to thank Darren Poole Adams for coming on and talking about the Toyota
Yeah,
Supra
the
program.
very cool to hear what he had to say, and it's nice from someone who's going through it to hear what's involved in getting something like this stock or legal. Because,
Right.
like I
It's not
said,
just a
it's not a matter of showing up at the track and saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm going to race a Supra." Um, I
yep,
had no idea that in the newer cars, everyone could run a 9-inch. I didn't know that they did the stuff they did with the transmission, the rear suspension, stuff like that. So that's all pretty cool. We learned quite a bit tonight.
absolutely. But thank you to Darren. And we haven't decided on next week yet, but if we'll figure something out. And see how I feel.
Yeah,
I feel like crap. So
we might be doing some lives at the track to offset a Tuesday night or something, but we'll figure something out.
yeah, because I have a live streaming camera now.
There you go.
So and I have permission from the big little guy to do it at the track.
It's a beautiful thing.
So all right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is how we do things here. And with that being said, have a great night. Again, thank you, Darren Poole Adams, for all your time. Pete, thank you, and I will talk to you soon.
My pleasure. We'll see you soon, bub.
All right, have a great evening, everybody. Take care.
Take care.